Hi there, welcome to BSF Recovery Team. Well, we're working on the wrecker again, and we're still working on the steering. Last summer, I had a problem where my power steering would fade in and out, along with my Hydro Boost brakes. And that kind of told me that my pump was starting to go. So now that we got the steering box changed, we're going to change out the pump. We got a new remanufactured unit here that we ordered for the application. Even though most Saginaw pumps appear to be about the same, except for maybe some differences in the reservoir. As you can see, this one has two return lines, and that's because it's for a Hydro Boost system. These type of Saginaw pumps can come in anything from 800 to 1400 PSI, and also a little difference in volume. So even though this is for the application, before we put it on, we're going to make sure that it's 1400 PSI pump. But before we get to that, we're going to take our old one and get the pulley off and the bracket off. Best way to remove the pulley is with a actual power steering pump, pulley, puller, or removal tool. As you can see, it grabs this groove on the pulley here, and then it has a threaded shaft that pushes on the shaft of the power steering pump. Just like that. Now we can take the brackets off. Boy, that could use some cleaning. Now we're going to show you how to tell if it's a 1400 PSI pump. First, we have to take this fitting out. Alright, you want to be careful because this is spring loaded. There we go. Now, the first thing is there is a difference in the size of this hole here. The larger the hole, the more flow. Now we can take a magnet and we can pull the pressure valve out. This is the pressure valve. And if you look at this one here, it appears to be one washer underneath the nut here. That kind of indicates to me that it's about a 1200 PSI pump. Should we take a look at our new pump? Okay, comparing our pressure valves here, I was mistaken. This one is the little bit taller valve with one washer underneath it. This is a little bit shorter valve, and there's no washer. The nut's down onto the shoulder as far as it goes. So that means that this is actually one of the 800 PSI pumps, or our old pump was just an 800 PSI pump. And our new one is definitely got the pressure valve for the 1400 PSI. There's no shims in there, and it's a little bit shorter valve. So here's a close-up of the valves. You can see that the one on the right is just a little bit taller than the one on the left, the main body of it, and you can see that it has a washer underneath the nut. And the one on the left, the shorter one, does not have a washer, and the nut is down onto the shoulder as far as it can go. Now, to make sure that we have the high flow capacity one, we got to check the diameter of this hole. It should be 5/32 for the high capacity one, and it's not quite. It's a little bit smaller. So is this one. So, to get the maximum amount of flow, we're actually going to drill that out to 5/32. Well, we got our bracket cleaned up. We can put that back on now. Okay, our bracket's back on. Now we can install the pulley. One thing I should have mentioned, before we pulled the pulley off, we took a look and we made sure that the shaft was flush with the end of the pulley, which is the way it normally is. Once in a great while though, in order to line up the belts properly, you'll find one that sticks out a little bit or that's recessed a little bit. You want to make sure that you put the pulley back on in the same spot. Like I say, ours was flush, so that's what we're going to do, is put it back on flush. To do that, there's a special installer. And what you want to do is thread the installer nut and bearing up quite a ways to make sure that this threads all the way down into the shaft. And bottoms out before you start to press it on with the big nut and the bearing. Now, to use this type of installer, you want to turn the big nut. Eventually it gets to the point to where you have to hold the shaft. So now we're going to hold the shaft with a socket and a ratchet and keep turning the nut. You keep doing that until it bottoms out. And that should be on flush. I'm going to loosen up the nut. Pull the shaft out. And there we have it, nice and flush, right where it was. And with our hole or port drilled out to 5/32 and the high pressure valve, we should be able to achieve 1350 to 1400 PSI from this pump, and that'll make it a whole lot easier to steer down the trail. Thanks for watching, BSF Recovery Team. Keep wheeling, be safe out there, and maybe we'll see you in the woods.